Hey guys, coming at you today from my kitchen with a recipe that I make all the time, and it's great for doing big meal prepping, and you can freeze some of it or you can just have it for several meals, making different things out of it throughout the week. Or like I'm gonna use it, we're taking it camping. Today we're gonna make a keto barbecue pulled pork. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia and I'm a pastry chef and a mom, and I was a chef for years, and I'm here to bring you all the best, delicious, healthy, keto, low carb meals. So if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe button down there, give the video a thumbs up, leave me comments, and share with all your friends and family. It all helps my channel grow and to bring you new videos every Saturday. So I apologize ahead of time if shots aren't great here. I still don't have my kitchen kind of set up for this. This is something I really don't ever measure anything, and it comes out different every time, but it's always delicious. I'm gonna try to measure for you guys today. I have a boneless pork butt. It's only 3.5 pounds. So to start off, we need to make a spice mix to like kind of rub on the pork. So I have all my ingredients out here, and these are what I don't usually measure. I don't usually even make a spice rub. What I usually do is I just throw the pork in, dump a bunch of seasonings on top, pour my liquid over, and set it. I'm gonna try and measure. Do 2 tablespoons of chili, same kind of amount of paprika. Basically, if you've ever made your own barbecue sauce, this is kind of the spices you would put into a barbecue sauce. And I am gonna make a barbecue sauce out of all this liquid and seasonings and drippings and everything after the pork is done. So 2 tablespoons of that. Do a tablespoon of garlic. You can also use fresh garlic, fresh onion. I'm just trying to get this done as quick as possible. If anything, I would chop up onions and have that in my barbecue sauce also, which you can do. Teaspoon of onion. I hate having the shaker tops on these. I almost always just take them off. But now that I have a boy helping me cook, it's good to have shaker tops sometimes. Teaspoon of pepper. Oh, salt. I'm like, what am I missing? I know I'm missing one other thing that I need. Do a teaspoon of salt. This is the salt I like to use. It's a Celtic gray sea salt, and this is fine ground. They have several different grain sizes to choose from. For my sweetener, I'm gonna do golden monk fruit erythritol blend. Any brown sugar would work, and probably the packable ones, they usually have malt or some kind of like flavoring to make it taste more like brown sugar. So that would be good in here, because most recipes use honey, brown sugar, molasses, you know, stuff like that. So, but I'm just gonna use this because this is what I have on hand. So I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons. And you can always adjust everything later too. So I mix this together. I might give it a taste, make sure there's enough of everything in there. Biggest thing for keto low carb is to do some kind of alternative sweetener, whether it be keto honey substitute or something like that. There's a lot on the market now, a lot more than there used to be, so you got a lot to choose from. This might even be more spice than we need. Just kind of eyeballed it. Tastes pretty good. I'm gonna hold off. I think it does need more salt, but we are adding ketchup, and I am adding a bouillon cube. I don't keep stock on hand because it's just so expensive now. And like I can't fathom paying $10 for a tiny little carton of bone broth. So that's what I get, but you can use whatever you want. So at the end, when we make our barbecue sauce and shred up our pork, we can taste it for seasoning, and if we need more salt or pepper or any of that stuff, we can add more. If you want spice, you can add cayenne. I'm obviously gonna give this to my toddler, so I'm not gonna add too much spice. It is a little spicy with the black pepper and chili, but not crazy. But you can add like cayenne or crushed red peppers or something like that. My husband has tons of hot sauces in the fridge, so he can have his pick of what he wants to add to his pork. Now let's get our pork going. I'm gonna do this over the sink so all that juice doesn't go in our bowl. I had this out overnight in the fridge, but then I put it into water this morning just to make sure it was completely thawed through, because if it's anywhere near frozen, it's gonna take way longer to cook. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this also. Some people say to trim the fat. Some people say to trim it later. I just keep it in and shred it all up and mix it all up with the pork. And then most say to put it in there whole. But if you're in a time crunch, kind of like I am because I had to wait for Van to go down for his nap at noon and I'm slow cooking this, I'm gonna cut it into a couple of chunks, and that way it takes less time to cook. It's gonna still go low and slow, but it's gonna cook in less time. And if you get one with a bone in it, I just cut around the bone and score it in several places. That way there's room for the heat to penetrate into the pork butt and cook it a little bit faster. And always, I usually check it when I'm doing low and slow. I'll check it after a couple of hours, and if it's not getting to where it needs to be in the time frame, like I need it ready for dinner in a couple of hours, I'll kick it up to high heat to finish it. You want it nice and shredded and super tender. So that's a way to kind of eyeball it. Okay, now that we got our chunks all nice and coated, so right into the crock pot, which is off camera. I had it on camera and then I had to move to make my son eggs. Okay. So generously season it up. Drop it in. Last one, I'm gonna use whatever is in here. No wasting. Yeah, so that was way more than we needed. So we'll have more for next time. I'm gonna wash my hands and then we'll get on to adding our liquid to this. I will measure the liquid for you also. I always put apple cider vinegar in my barbecue sauce. So I'm gonna do a 1/2 cup apple cider vinegar, and I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of water to this because I'm doing the bouillon cube. Pour that in along with the bouillon cube. And then I'm just gonna add a whole jar, which is 11.3 ounces of Primal Kitchen ketchup. You can pretty much add as much as you want, and you're gonna adjust later when you cook your barbecue sauce anyways. You can also just use, instead of doing all this, just do the chicken stock, and you can use a commercially bought sugar-free barbecue sauce. We always have G. Hughes barbecue sauce in our fridge. I'm gonna put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in here, rinse it out, and pour the rest in here. No reason to waste it. Okay, and then this is something else I never measure, and I probably will put more in when I make the barbecue sauce, but I'm gonna put a couple splashes of Worcestershire sauce in there. And then a tiny bit of liquid smoke. This stuff is strong, you do not wanna use a lot of it. Again, this is a traditional sweet barbecue sauce. You can do a lot of different things with this. You can make it an Asian one and put fish sauce and soy and all that stuff in it too. So there's a lot of different variations you can do and make a different kind of pulled pork every time. So you don't have to do my exact spices or seasonings or anything. Okay, so I have it on low. We're good to go. So luckily, it'll only be a second for you, but I'll be back in several hours to give this a little check. Van will probably be awake, so it'll be interesting. Okay, it's been a couple hours. Van's over here playing, so you might hear him, but I did turn it up. But if you have one big chunk, low, 8 to 10 hours. A bunch of little chunks, probably maybe 6 hours. So if you do it on a high, it's only gonna take 4 to 6 hours. So I'm hoping that it's gonna be done not too late. I just didn't want it done at like 9 o'clock tonight. So I'm gonna uncover it and give it a little look. Throwing things off the counter. So I'm going to turn it all around. Nowhere near done. So probably another at least 2 hours on high. It's 3:45 right now, so around 6 o'clock is when we usually eat. So if it's not done by then, I'll make something else for dinner. Yeah, just keep on cooking. Okay, so it's about 5 o'clock. Just checking it now. It's still not quite done, but it'll probably be done in the next hour or two. So I'm gonna cook some steaks and veg for dinner. I will be back when it is done cooking, and I'll show you it shredding up, and then I'll be back tomorrow. This was actually done at like 6 o'clock, but it's 8:20 because I was cooking dinner, ate dinner, cleaned up dinner, and then bedtime. So it is done. So it only took 4 hours on high, 2 hours on low, and it was falling apart. So now it is really falling apart. So I'm just gonna put everything into a container. And then I'm gonna pour all the juice into a container. And doing this overnight allows the fat to separate, and that way I can just skim off the fat when it hardens instead of having to try and get it off with like a big spoon right now. So it's actually easier to do this ahead of time. So I'm gonna let that cool on the counter and then get it into the refrigerator, and then I'll be back tomorrow to finish the barbecue sauce. Okay, so it's the next morning, really early, because I got to get down to the bakery. I'll probably be down there all day. So I'm going to work on getting this pulled pork done and ready for camping. So that's what it'll look like. All the fat comes to the top, which makes it easier to get it off and make your barbecue sauce. Okay, pour all your liquid into a pot. Turn it on, get it nice and hot. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. I usually just use arrowroot, which is just a kind of cornstarch alternative. It's better for you health-wise and stuff like that. So that's what I usually use. You can also just use a tiny bit of xanthan gum. Yeah, sprinkle it in, stir it really well with a whisk, and heat it to boiling. You're not going to need a lot for this because it's already a little bit thick because of adding the ketchup and all that stuff in it. I'm just going to start with 1 teaspoon of arrowroot, which is about 2 carbs. Tiny bit of water. My husband came home smelling this and he was like, oh, I want pulled pork for dinner. I'm like, it's not going to be ready. Of course, it was kind of ready by 6 o'clock, but I was already got steaks out and everything, so I want all that fat to melt down in there, and the arrowroot or xanthan gum, if you use it, will help bind the fat into the barbecue sauce. Whenever I make anything like barbecue, I always use extra liquid and make extra barbecue sauce. That way I have some already made keto low carb barbecue sauce in the fridge, and it saves me money to buying like the G Hughes or, you know, something low carb from the store. So I don't know if I mentioned it yesterday because I was it was the end of the day and I was tired. But if you could literally just put that on low, like before you go to work or something like that, it can go longer. Like I had it on low from 6 to 8:30, even though it was kind of done at 6. It's not going to hurt it any to be cooking longer. You don't have to worry about it like overcooking or anything because you're slow braising it, you know, in liquid. No matter what, it's going to be good to go. So give yourself more time than less time. Okay, everything's melted in there. It's boiling around the edges. Boiling all around. Pour and stir. Let it come to a boil again. And I think that is thick enough. So you don't want it super thick because when it's cooled, it's going to be even thicker. So with the pulled pork, you don't have to add the barbecue sauce, and you can literally just have different things to make with the pulled pork. Like you're going to have a really good seasoned pork, so you don't have to do barbecue sauce necessarily. You can, you know, add it to different dishes and stuff if you don't put the barbecue in it. That's it for the sauce. Oh, gotta taste it and see if it's seasoned enough or if we need other additions to the barbecue sauce. That's why I had this spoon here to remind me. It's pretty good, but it's really vinegary and sweet. So I think I'm going to add some more spices and stuff to it. A little bit more Worcestershire. I don't get much smokiness at all, so a couple of dashes. That's tasting more like a barbecue sauce now. I'm gonna add some pepper. There's really not a lot of spice to it. There's plenty of salt, plenty of sugar, and now there's plenty of the Worcestershire. And there's plenty of vinegar in there. There's not a lot of like heat or any other like spice flavor in there. One more chili powder. What's the other? Oh, paprika. It'd be really nice if I had smoked paprika. I never think to buy it. I might add a little bit more pepper. There's no kick to it at all right now. And my son, he loves black pepper. I put it in his eggs. And even sometimes when I think I go overboard on the black pepper, he still eats it. So I tend to go over because this hole is so big. There we go. A little bit of spice on the tongue from the black pepper. So I'm gonna let this cool and put it into a container and have it ready for camping. See if we can get this pulled pork pulled at all. One of these containers, like packed full, is enough for dinner for me and my husband and my toddler. So that's what I kind of gauge it by. This is a pint, so 2 cups. Try a little bit of it just by itself. Really good season, but not super strong. That's why I said you can do different types of dishes with this, not just like pulled pork sandwiches. It's like butter. So I like to have this, I'll have it in the fridge and I'll put it in my toddler's eggs in the morning, or I'll make him like a quesadilla for lunch. And then like if he has mac and cheese for dinner, I'll put a little bit of pulled pork in his mac and cheese. It helps him to eat protein easier than just having a chunk of meat. He does eat chunks of meat now, which is nice, but sometimes he'll chew it up and spit it out because it's just too much for him, you know? So, but when it's chopped up in things, it's easier for him to eat. It's a good thing to have on hand to just add a little bit more protein to his meals that I know he'll eat. Because we left all that fat on there, there's like big chunks of fat, and then when you heat it up, it'll get all mixed in. But it actually shreds pretty easy, even though it's cold, because it's just so cooked. So I do have a couple keto camping videos, so I'll link a few throughout here. I'm not sure if I'm going to shoot this camping trip or not. Let me know if it's something you're interested in seeing. Mainly be focused just around food and a couple clips here and there. We haven't done camping since Van was 5 months old, so he is now 22 months old. It'll be interesting. He was not walking yet, so now he's gonna be walking and going everywhere, and we're gonna have to wrangle him. And if you want a bun to eat the pulled pork on, I'll link up there my hamburger bun recipe. I do have some in my freezer, so I'll probably grab a couple for us to take. Hey guys, it's the new year. With the new year comes getting back on the keto low carb horse. Even though I do have hundreds of recipe videos, I know not everyone wants to make the complicated recipes or buy all the ingredients. So I just want to remind you that I am selling my low carb, high protein, fluffy white bread, available to ship to 26 states listed on the screen here. It's a good thing to have stocked in your freezer. It all freezes well and great for burgers, grilled cheese sandwiches, BLTs, all that kind of stuff. Along with that, I love having keto snacks and desserts in the freezer ready to go. So I have added my keto fudgy brownies to my website, along with the keto coffee cake and breakfast baked goods. If you're in need of some quick keto low carb desserts, you can stock your freezer and click the link down in the description box below and place your order for some delicious keto low carb baked goods. Now, back to the video. The rest of this pork, I'm gonna have to shred it up and portion it out into containers to throw into the freezer. But this is our 1 portion of pulled pork that's going camping with us. I might take some footage of us eating it, making it into burger, you know, pulled pork sandwiches and stuff. That way I have something for the thumbnail. So I hope you guys enjoy this savory, low carb keto, just healthy recipe. It's really not that hard to get it done, and you have a lot of meals out of it. I like having this in the freezer on those days when I don't really have a lot of time to cook, and I see it in there, I pull it out, I'll put it in some warm water to help it defrost for a quick meal. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Leave me comments and let me know if you enjoy or you make it for yourself. I love to know. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with more recipe videos. Bye guys. Happy keto, healthy, low carb cooking.